has good nutrition. It should be able to synthesize or make from foods that it's eaten all of the nucleotides that it needs. So we call those free or available nucleotides to build the new strands. Okay.
What about primer? Is it part of the DNA polymerase complex?
The primer is actually part of the sequence. Is that right, Colton? The primer is part of the sequence or part of an enzyme? Primer is part of the sequence, actually, I think. Maybe both. Who cares? Yeah, the primer starts at copy. All right, now, actually the primer is more for protein synthesis, but anyway, so the reason they call it semi-conservative replication is because half of each new copy conserves the original DNA. So each new copy is half original and half new. It's semi-conservative. Each new copy conserves half of the original DNA. And what's the new copy? It's the daughter cell's nucleoid. Yeah. Okay. Why? Why would a cell bother to have double-stranded DNA? One strand isn't enough to carry the genetic code. Why would it bother to have double-stranded DNA, and why would it conserve half of the original DNA?
Well, I think that it needs...
She literally answers all my questions. Yes, go ahead.
Well, okay. Why does it need a double strand? I think it's because, it has got to store information, because in this DNA there is all the information, so it has this double helix in order to, to make the DNA use more space, I think.
It has to store the information, but it has to pass it on to the next generation. So that's why. It has to pass it on to the next generation. So this is the way to do it. Anyways, let's go back to the olden days when I was in college. So when I was in college, or let's say when I was in high school, and I wanted to go to college. So you don't just apply to one college, right? You apply to like 2, maybe 5. You apply to more colleges just in case you don't get into your first choice, right? So in the olden days, we didn't have our records on a computer. We literally had paper files. Our transcript was a paper file in a file cabinet somewhere, right? So if you wanted to send a copy of your transcript to 5 different colleges, you'd have to get the paper copy and make photocopies of it. So, would you take your paper copy and put it on the machine and make a photocopy, and then take that photocopy and put it back on the machine and get another photocopy, and then take your third photocopy and put it on the machine? Why not? What?
Distortion.
It's going to get distorted, right, exactly. So, they think this is why the bacterial cells and the human cells as well do this semi-conservative replication, because this way you're always working off your most original copy. So there's less likely a chance for mistakes to be there. So the technical terminology would be semi-conservative replication preserves the integrity of the DNA. Where the heck do I come up with these lines? But I must have read that somewhere. It preserves the integrity of the DNA as it's passed from generation to generation. Okay. I'm going back to my simple form just for a minute. Okay, I have 2 daughter cells. And they're growing up and they're maturing and they're ready to replicate. So what happens now? Where'd my black marker go? When they replicate, she is going to be going to be right? So if they replicate and they build 2 new strands in the middle, right? That's what you're going to get. Now who's the most original strand? It's going to get confusing after several generations, right? But the cell knows. That's why they have the 3' end and the 5' end. That's how the cell knows which is the most original copy, which one they want to make proteins off of, which one is least likely to have mistakes and all that stuff.
Smart.
So, in the olden days, we called the most original strand the sense strand, and the other strand the anti-sense strand. Sort of like the Christ and the Antichrist. It's the opposite, the exact mirror image, or the complementary strand. So over here, the most original strand we call the sense strand. They don't really use that terminology anymore. They just go with, what do they use? They just go, what? Template strand. Template strand. Is your original one the template? Mm-hmm. And then what do they call the coding strand? And which one are they going to make proteins off of?
Well, polymerase is going to go down the coding strand and fold it onto there.
Come back to that when we do protein synthesis. Okay, so you have your sense strand, which is your template. That's the thing you put on the copy machine. Your coding strand carries the code as well, but it has to also be inherited. So your coding strand, I always call the anti-sense strand. Alrighty. Technically, this one would be the most original. This one would be the copy. Okay? Alright, something else popped in my head, it just popped out, and I can't remember what it was, so we'll continue. Alright. These 2 strands are called complementary. And when the DNA gets copied, you have to do complementary base pairing. Complementary base pairing. What are the bases in DNA? Right, everybody remembers that. Adenine, guanine, cytosine, thymine. Okay? Adenine will always complement T, and T will always complement A. And G will always complement C, and C will always complement G. And when I say complement, I mean they'll form the hydrogen bonds with one another. So let's put in some real words, or real letters. after copying, that's where we're gonna go. Okay, so let's say on this strand, the nitrogenous base is C. Then you have an A. Then you have a T. C, my favorite word. Now my cat's favorite word. G, A, G.
Gag.
Yeah. Hairballs. That's all they ever do. I guess there's one cat, that's all he ever does is vomit.
That's
Yeah.
very cute.
The long-haired cat, he never vomits. It's the guy with the short hair who vomits all the time. I think they get in fights and he eats the other guy's
Yeah.
foot. And he gets stuck. And then I can never remember what I put for this one, but let's just put cat, because you get a lot of gag cat. Miserable, it's awful. Rita's fed up. He's like, really? I don't want to hear about it. You should
I wasn't
know,
talking about.
when the cat's gonna throw up, he comes in from outdoors, announces that he's ready to Ralph. Uh-oh. And then all of them, and they lurch like, oh my God, he's throwing up a dragon. And then nothing comes out. No hairball, nothing.
My brother's cat was bulimic and would do that too, but
Yeah.
5 times a day.
Yep, that's my cat. And you're exactly right. I decided he's just bulimic. There's no hairball, he just enjoys vomiting for some reason. I don't know.